interesting. I started my career in sales and marketing, and I did some PR, and then I just felt like that wasn't really impactful in the way that I wanted it to be. So I went back to school and I studied industrial engineering. And then I got a master's in engineering management. And that is when I really learned about the supply chain and, manufacturing, logistics, supply chain management. And I actually liked it so much that I wanted to switch what I was studying to supply chain management. And my professor, who was an engineer, said, don't do that. Stick with engineering. You can still do supply chain, but having also the engineering background will make you better at understanding like the actual manufacturing and production process and quality control and things like that. So I stuck with that. I got an internship at a consulting firm, and it was a digital supply chain implementation. So S&OP, production planning, inventory management. I was hands-on keyboards, configuring software, but I was also just naturally curious as to like, what is this doing? Why is it doing it this way? And I've just loved it ever since. There's so many different things. You can never learn everything. And I truly believe like if you did this career for like forever, you would never learn everything because everything is changing so much. So like as soon as you like feel like you've mastered it, it changes. And then also on top of that, there's so many different functions within the supply chain. So for someone like me that is like always looking for like a variety of the spice of life, change is good. It's really fun for me to be in this space.
Wow, that is a definitely interesting journey. And I think that my first takeaway already would be experiment, learn, and just don't fear from taking the risk like you did, changing the sector, learning something new, and then falling in love with it.
I would say those are good takeaways, but I would say be afraid. Like fear is normal. It's okay to be afraid, but do it anyway. Do it scared. Do it scared.
Okay.
The worst that'll happen is you'll just end up back to where you are now. But you will have learned something along the way. So it's never a waste of time,
True. I love your hoodie. It says New Gen Architects, which is something that you have founded. So could you tell us more about it? What exactly does it do? How is it guiding the companies through digital transformation and sustainable practices?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Thank you for noticing my swag.
Of course.
So because I spent so much time, like I told you, in consulting, I spent a time where the firms that I was working for, they wanted to work with larger clients who had, a bigger budget for digital transformation. These were multi-year long projects. A lot of times it's 7-figure, price tags on them. And the companies were what, you might call enterprise level, $1 billion or more in annual revenue, the absolute minimum, like 500 million. And because I participated sometimes in the sales cycle, either by like joining a demo or giving a demo of a software that we could implement at the firm, I would oftentimes be like involved in the conversation of like, is this a good client for us? Because when you're in business, you can't just take everybody. You have limited resources, you have limited time, so work with the clients that fit best into your ICP, your ideal customer profile. And there were a lot of times where leadership would say, this isn't a good fit for us. And I knew that was because, well, they didn't have an ERP system. So they wanted to implement some sort of inventory management tool. They didn't have an ERP system or a data lake or a data warehouse where that data would sit so that the inventory management tool could actually work. Or they didn't have the right people, or they didn't have the right budget. And of course, these are larger companies, so they need more money to run. So when I started New Gen Architects, I really wanted to focus on helping that like you're not good enough for Deloitte. You know, you're not big enough for like
Yeah.
the firms. And you're not really at a maturity level yet from a digital perspective for them to even work with you. So like, how do you get ready for that type of engagement? What is the solution architecture and the enterprise architecture that you need to be considering? If you're not ready for O9 or Kinaxis or, you know, a larger, more sophisticated tool, what can you do in the meantime, thinking about like your scalability and where you're going later. So I started New Gen Architects to really help companies at a lower digital maturity level understand what digital maturity looks like, and then come up with a roadmap for people and tools to get to, you know, the higher levels of maturity. So we've been doing that. It's
Wow.
fun. I think it's impactful. I think it's challenging. No company is the same. Even if you say like, we're only going to focus on this industry and this size of company, it can be the same industry, the same size, same number of employees, same number of revenue, but like the people are different. The personalities are different. Their individual goals, how that fits in with the strategic goals of the government, of the company. Everything is different. So you know, no company is the same, and
Definitely.
it's always something fun.
Wow, that does sound very amazing. And I think you missed out on an important word, transforming. What you are doing is pure transformation. And I think it's helping a lot of companies to become better and learn more even about their own companies. Like it's a very beautiful work that you're doing. So if like what exactly do you think was that one motivating factor that led you to do it?
So honestly, if I have to be like frank about it, it
Mhm.
was. I'm trying to think of a nice word. In when I was working for another company, it's very easy to be from the outside looking in and say like, this is wrong, like you shouldn't be
Yeah.
doing this, isn't right. So it was almost kind of like, it was twofold. Firsthand, I was like, I don't want to keep doing it in this way. I can't find a company that I want to work for. It was COVID. My son was 18 months. It's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna do my own thing and I'm just gonna work
Yeah.
part-time. Any entrepreneur would tell you that that was backwards thinking, but you know, ignorance is bliss. Like if you don't
Yeah.
know, then you just do it. So
True.
that was the first mistake, or you know, the first misconception of what I was about to embark on. The other thing is that I had this idea from sitting in those conversations, and then also just like implementing tools. I felt like it was always transactional. It was
Mhm.
always like, oh, well, can we get enough money out of this company to keep moving forward and for us to continue to grow as a consulting firm? I didn't feel like it was ever really, can we solve this problem? Like, can we
Mhm.
genuinely solve this problem? It's okay, well, maybe we can, maybe we can't, but if we can't, we should tell them, as opposed to maybe we can't, but like, what could we squeeze out of it so that we can bring revenue into the company? And I felt like it was that.
Mhm.
I didn't feel like we were ever really solving the problem. Like
Mhm.
we were maybe incrementally making them faster, but even
Yeah.
faster at doing bad stuff. You know what I mean? Or it takes you a long time to do this wrong
True.
thing. Now
Yeah.
you less time to do this wrong thing. Um, but I didn't really see the impact. And I didn't like the role that I was having in. A lot of times when these digital transformations happen, what
Mhm.
companies do is give like the subject matter experts and like the stakeholders on the team, they
Mhm.
get a job and a night job, to where their day job becomes like working with these consultants and the software
Mhm.
engineers to do the digital transformation. And the night job was their previous day job. It's their night and weekend job, because they just, you
True.
don't, you do these like unrealistic
Yeah.
kind of arbitrary, honestly, timelines. Like we must
Mhm.
get, I've had one engagement where it was like, no, we really have to get this implementation for this ERP done because SAP is not going to support this version of our ERP anymore. So we have to get off of SAP. Like their drop dead deadline is 12/31. So like we've got to be live on Jan 1. That's the only time. Everything else has been like, yes, third quarter, like July 13th, it must be done. And it's like, but if it's not, what happens? So like we're making people work over the weekends, work on holidays. The number of times I worked on Christmas or like I worked on New Year's and then realized like, okay, but if we had not worked on Christmas and if we had not worked on New Year's and this had gone out for 2 weeks, like would life had been fundamentally different? Like, guys, it's closed. You know,
Yeah.
like we're doing life-saving medicine to rural areas in developing nations. Like, you know what
Definitely. Yeah.
it's closed. You know, like, did we have to do this? I didn't like the role that I was playing in that. So, you know, self-righteous, like I'm gonna
Yeah.
mainly
Yeah.
started my own company, but only to realize that
Mm.
I don't think it was always transactional. I think it was, quite frankly, sometimes just like genuine ignorance. So like on the software side, as a consultant, you're not exposed to what is like actually happening within the company. So I can sit down and ask you, okay, like what do you do in your like what's your current order to cash process? And
Mhm.
I can talk to like the three people who are appointed to be these change agents and like work with the consultants. But are they like, do they really represent what's happening? Do they
Yeah.
actually really know what's happening? There's a lot of times that it's like,
Mhm.
we just hired this new person and they don't have a significant workload. So let's put them on the digital transformation team. They don't know what's happening at the company. They just, it's like, they
Exactly.
tell me what's happening. So like now we're just the blind leading the blind. Um,
Definitely.
and and I do think like now looking back, is there a situation or a project where I can pinpoint and say, this one was like the team
Yeah.
solve a problem. This one was actually probably transactional. I don't
True.
like it is multifactorial, but
Yeah.
I know that I'm less hard on
Uh-huh.
software vendors now, because if you don't understand the business, you don't know the business. A lot of people, you know, are also just like good at the configuration. They're good at SQL. They're good at data. It doesn't mean they actually understand what is needed to run the supply chain process and how that's different from food and beverage or pharmaceuticals or retail or manufacturing of heavy machinery or versus like this, you know, manufacturing of like small components and widgets. Like it's different. But if you only know your software, you can't be expected to tell this company, like I can tell you how my software
Yeah.
works,
Mm-hmm.
necessarily tell you how to apply that. But
Yeah.
that's what the companies do. The companies look to the software vendors to have the answers, but the
Mm-hmm.
software vendor is looking to the company to tell me, no, I need you to tell me what you need. So there's
Yeah.
like lost in translation that's happening as opposed to like, oh, this is just transactional.
Wow. Oh my God. I
Company, I thought I was gonna like solve that problem. And then I was like, okay,
True.
that was, you know,
Yeah.
you don't know what you know.
Yeah, but to be honest, that was the most realistic way someone actually put it out what the issue is. Like when you hire, like I always think that when they hire new people who don't know anything about what your company does, doesn't that actually add a little inconvenience? As you said, the stuff is lost in the translation part. Now, there might be a lot of things about my life that only I know and about your life that you know. So when we talk, because it's one to one, it's making sense. Now, if there was a third person who just doesn't know at all and we have to explain it, a lot of the part will be filtered, a lot of it would not be known. So I understand. I totally am able to grasp what you were trying to tell me. So I can imagine how that works.
Yeah, yeah. It's
you,
very
you,
interesting dynamic. It's an interesting dynamic for sure.
yeah, indeed. And I think that like this should be something that keeps you like interesting. The most important, interesting part of your role would be like identifying new issues and trying to get a better understanding further.
It's honestly the
Mhm.
complex, the hardest part, and the most important part also.
True.
Like the software, honestly, it's easy. I've
Mhm.
got to a point to where I've seen so many different softwares. I've demoed them.
Mhm.
I've maybe not personally experienced them, but someone else, like a client has used it or a friend has used it and they've told me what it does. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it's six of one, half a dozen of the other. Like most of them do
Mhm.
the same thing. There might be like one unique differentiating feature for this,
Mhm.
software versus the other one, but also quite frankly, within the realm of like what you're likely trying to do, is that going to make like a material difference over the course of like multiple years in your entire product portfolio? Probably not. But like if it makes you feel good, you
Yeah.
know, sure, if it gives you a little bit of emotional feel good, like you have this one feature that like this other thing doesn't do. But the reality of the matter is that you're going to use Excel anyway for something. So it's like, are you using it for this thing or are you using it for that thing? Like you're never going to get completely out of Excel. Even if your team is like, we're no longer using Excel, we're only using this tool, but you have to send it to other people. You have to get
Definitely.
information from other, like those people aren't in your tool. So you're
Yeah.
all they're going to be like exporting something or sending something or like translating some data, like sending it somewhere else. So like you're not going to get away from that. The supply
True.
chain is too complex. Like you're not going to get away from that. So like choosing the right tool for what we do, like I always say, just make sure you're not over customizing. Like if
True.
you're not over customizing and
Mhm.
you're not like still spending 80% of your time in it. Like if you're going into the system to get
Yeah.
a data point and then export that and do
Yeah.
everything, okay, yeah, that was the wrong tool. But also if like the tool, if you don't do any customization, is 100,000, and then you
Yeah.
get your customization bill and it's 800,000, then you might be getting the wrong tool. So like as long as you're not on either end of those spectrums, like just pick one. Who do you like the best? Who's giving you the best
Yeah.
deal? I even also used to say like pick the team that you think understands your business and like your process the most. But like what if
Yeah.
those work somewhere else? You know what I mean? So you
True.
can't like, use that as like the qualifying factor. Like it's all
Definitely.
a risk. You have to be realistic about it. You have to just recognize where you are, but that's why the most important piece is actually the people. If you have 10 planners and
Mhm.
they all plan different, products or product families or certain
Mhm.
SKUs, is the general process the same? If I ask 10
Yeah.
people what you do here, do I get one answer? I
Yeah.
do this, but for this product. I do this, but for this region. I do this, but for this, SKU family.
True.
If you do this, but you do it this way, and you talk to 10 people and you get 14 answers, because at the end of the year, we do it like this. If finance asks, I do it like this. If this particular VP asks, I do it this way. That's the problem, not the technology. Because again, we go back to sure, you can have technology, but then you'll just do all those things faster. Like it's
True.
not to solve the issue. So the more important and
Mhm.
impactful part of the work that we do is what I call the therapy. Like you
Mhm.
sit and talk to everybody. Come on here, guys. Like the mediation. Like
Yeah.
let's all get in the room and let's let me be the unbiased third party to say like I don't care about your ego or your ego or your ego. I don't care about your individual career plans. None of this matters to me. Let's put all of that aside and figure out what is best for like everyone. And that's quite unrealistic as well because everyone has their individual
True.
agenda. And especially now that career spans are so short, if I'm
Yeah.
only 2 or 3 years, do I care about starting a 5-year project? Probably not. You know what I mean? So you have to consider like that is the hardest. Like at the end of the day, supply chain, whether it's digital transformation or just like executing and planning, it's a people function. you have so many people, you have so many things you have to think about, and personalities and work style and vacation time, like
Yeah.
that is more important than
Mm.
are we going to use Anaplan, Blue Yonder, John Galt, or like Kinaxis or '09. Like they're probably all going to over promise and under deliver. Like,
Definitely.
like
Sure.
that's what it is, and you can like mitigate the risk how much under delivery you get.
Definitely. And you have mentioned in one of your posts about how to manage the teams. Like you have spoken about the 5 skills, which was data, critical thinking, storytelling, leadership, and curiosity. So, of course, managing all the 5 is tough. So, which one do you think holds more importance when we become a team member somewhere? Which
Tell
one?
me,
Like,
tell me what they are. So critical thinking is out, but what were the other ones again? What were my options that I said?
you said data, critical thinking, storytelling, leadership, and curiosity.
Ooh. So
Yeah.
pick one. It's a hard choice between critical thinking, storytelling,
Hmm.
and
Curiosity.
and curiosity. Yeah. Uh, I'm gonna
Okay.
I'm I'm gonna go with critical thinking though,
Okay.
because
Hmm.
I think like that's a foundation to all of the other things. Like if you can think critically, you can
Yeah.
figure out how to tell the story and connect the dots. If you can think critically, or maybe the curiosity leads to the critical thinking. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard.
Okay. So are you feeling like Joey does with sandwich or women sandwich or women is like bread and women together?
Yes. Yeah. But I'm gonna go with critical thinking if I have to pick one.
Critical thinking. Okay. But now if I'm talking about myself. So I'm 22. I haven't started my professional career yet.
Mhm.
So if I'm entering, what is the skill? Is it still going to be critical thinking? The reason I'm asking is because I'll be so fresh, I'll be probably just being directed to do stuff. So
Mhm.
I don't think I'll be asked to use my brain that much as I think I would be. So then what skill actually comes in the picture?
Okay. So first of all, you'd be surprised at like how much about how much you would be expected to do as
Yeah.
a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed new supply chain analyst or
Yeah.
whatever the role coordinator that you would be coming into. But I would definitely say curiosity in that case, just like intellectual curiosity,
Yeah.
passionate, curious, like why are we doing these things? Like, yes, you're telling me what I'm supposed to do, but like, why do we do that? And a lot of people are sometimes taken aback and even offended when you ask them why, because they almost like, oh, well, you're questioning me, and it's not that, but like you genuinely want to know, and it's good to
Yeah.
know. And I think a lot of inefficiencies, like a lack of a productivity. I think a lot of it is because people don't know why they're doing stuff. They're doing something, but they don't actually understand the downstream impact. And they don't understand what's happening upstream to where like, okay, well now like all of these things are happening, and now it's my turn, and I'm responsible for doing this. But why does that matter? Because what ends up happening is that like I might tell you how to do something and it takes me 4 hours to do that thing. And then you're like, well, this is silly. I could cut this out, do a shortcut here. And now it's taken me, an hour and a half to do it. It's like, yeah, but all those things you cut out, like they're important. Like I don't just do them because I don't have anything else to do. Like, yeah, it
Yeah.
seems silly because like why would I take this PDF and print it out and then upload it into here, and then like why would I not just put the data directly into the system? Well, you might not do that because maybe like a supplier is logging in the system also, and the contract is such that if they don't have the actual attachment, then they're not going to process, whatever, like
Yeah.
maybe accounting invoice, maybe it's a BOL, like maybe they need the actual physical document. If you don't upload that, then by the time it gets to the person that's supposed to review it, they've got to go back, ask somebody else. So yeah, maybe it took you an hour and a half instead of 4 hours to actually cause
Miss.
work on the back end. And
Yeah.
times, like if you will ask somebody, well, that's weird. Like, why are you uploading it and typing the information in? And
Yeah.
there is, okay, well, I'm uploading it because someone, like a person needs to see it, but I'm typing it in because then like the EDI requires it to, like, it's just going to, so like, that's the answer. But a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know. Like, that's just what they told me to do. But also on top of that, if you know why you do something, when it's time for the digital transformation, you can tell the software vendor, you can tell the service provider, this is why we do it. And then from my end, if I'm trying to figure out how to configure the software and how to do these things, okay, well, I know that they need this information because, and it's highly inefficient if they do it this way, but ultimately I know what the end result is that they're trying to achieve. So I can tell them how to best configure our software in order to achieve, that result. So it's so important to be curious and just to ask, like, why is this happening? Because one of the other just like really good career paths, I think, is continuous improvement. How can we make this better? And it's always going to be something that's, that's important because technology changes so fast. The tool that you sign up for today is not be the tool that you have in a year, because that vendor is looking to improve the features and functionality. So from a continuous improvement perspective, you're going to have someone intentionally looking and saying, oh, they just came out with this new feature. Should we implement that? Like, should we adopt that feature? Is that good for us? Because just because they put it out doesn't mean you need to do it. But if you should be doing it, there should be someone like intentionally checking to see, this is still taking a long time, or this is still not as good as we would like it to be. Or this new feature has come out, this new tool exists that does this other thing. Can we improve what we're doing? Can we make people's lives easier from our perspective, from our employees' perspectives, from our strategic customers? So if you are curious and you are always looking for that and looking to understand why, you can like the point person that's connecting the dots. And that's a very, very important, that's a very important function that we have within the supply chain that I think is undervalued.